If you have never met someone who lived their entire life like a movie trailer, then let me tell you about Adaobi. She was 26 years old, living in Lagos, and believed that fame was not just a dream but a birthright. Every morning, she would wake up at 5, not to pray or plan her day, but to check how many followers she had gained overnight. Her phone was like her oxygen. Without it, she could not breathe. Adaobi worked as a customer service agent in a small telecom company, but on Instagram, she was a lifestyle influencer. Her captions said things like, "Living my best life," and "Soft life, no stress," even though her rent was 3 months overdue and her fridge only had bottled water and hope inside. Her best friend from university, Sandra, used to tell her, "Ada, this your packaging go wound you one day." But Adaobi would laugh and say, "Sandra, you don't understand this generation. If you're not visible, you're invisible." And that was how her journey into fame and foolishness began. Adaobi's roommate was a guy named Laddie. He was the opposite of everything she represented. Laddie wore the same 3 shirts every week, ate beans happily, and never posted anything online except maybe a blurry birthday photo once a year. He would watch Adaobi set up her ring light at 6 in the morning just to record a fake morning routine and shake his head in disbelief. One morning, as she posed with a croissant she borrowed from her neighbor, Laddie asked, "Ada, who are you deceiving?" She smiled at the camera and whispered, "Everyone, Laddie. Everyone." Laddie was not just her roommate. He was also her unofficial cameraman, stylist critic, and the voice of reason she constantly ignored. He found her life hilarious and sometimes filmed her behind the scenes, adding funny voiceovers on TikTok. His videos got more views than hers, which annoyed her greatly. But deep down, she knew he cared. He just showed it by mocking her gently, like a brother who loved you but refused to lie to you. Sandra visited one Saturday afternoon. She worked a real 9-to-5 job, paid her bills on time, and lived without pretense. As she sat in Adaobi's tiny apartment watching her friend arrange perfume bottles for a flat lay photo, Sandra sighed deeply. "Ada, how are you funding this lifestyle?" she asked. Adaobi did not look up from her phone. "Fake it till it finds you, Sandra. That's the formula." Sandra frowned. "You mean fake it till you finish yourself?" Adaobi laughed. "You worry too much. I'm building a brand. Brands attract money." But Sandra was not convinced. She saw the loan app notifications flashing on Adaobi's screen when she thought no one was looking. She saw the stress hidden behind the filters and the desperation masked with confidence. "Ada, this thing you're doing, it's not sustainable," Sandra warned. Adaobi finally looked at her and smiled tiredly. "I know. But I've come too far to stop now." That sentence would later haunt her in ways she never imagined. The following week, Adaobi's landlord came knocking early in the morning. His knuckles hit the door like judgment itself. Laddie opened it, and the man's face was as serious as a court summons. "Where is your sister?" he asked. Laddie wanted to laugh. "She's not my sister, sir. She's my roommate." The landlord did not care about details. "Tell her I need my rent today. No more stories." When Adaobi finally emerged from her room, wrapped in a satin robe she bought on credit, she smiled sweetly. "Good morning, sir. I was just about to call you. I'm signing a big deal this week. By Friday, everything will be settled." The landlord stared at her with the kind of look that said he had heard this story too many times. "Adaobi, Friday is your last chance. After that, I'm changing the locks." He left, and the door closed with a heavy thud. Laddie looked at her and said nothing. He just started his phone and went live on Instagram, narrating the Landlord Chronicles to his small but loyal audience. That same week, something unexpected happened. Adaobi staged a couple's photo shoot with a flashy guy named T-Money. He was not her boyfriend. In fact, she barely knew him. But he had a nice car, designer sunglasses, and the kind of confidence that photographed well. They posed at a luxury hotel lobby, pretending to be young and rich. The photos went viral. Overnight, Adaobi gained 10,000 new followers. She could not believe it. Her phone was on fire with notifications. Comments poured in, couple goals, you people are too cute, when is the wedding? She scrolled and scrolled, her heart racing with excitement. Laddie watched her from across the room and started clapping slowly, ironically. Congratulations, Miss Packaging 2025. You have officially entered the Hall of Fame. Adaobi did not care about his sarcasm. She was glowing. Laddie, this is just the beginning, she said confidently. And in a way, she was right. It was the beginning, but not the kind she imagined. Riding on her new wave of followers, Adaobi decided to attend an exclusive influencer brunch. The problem was, she was not invited. But that did not stop her. She wore Sandra's best dress, borrowed a designer bag from a girl she met once at a salon, and showed up anyway. The event was filled with real influencers, people with verified badges and brand deals, people whose smiles cost money. She tried to blend in, snapping photos by the champagne tower and laughing loudly at jokes she did not understand. Then she met Kemi B, a top-tier Lagos influencer with 200,000 followers. Kemi looked at her and smiled politely. I don't think we've met before. Adaobi extended her hand confidently. I'm Adaobi. I'm in the lifestyle space too. Kemi nodded slowly, her eyes scanning Adaobi's outfit. Nice bag. Is that the new Valentino? Adaobi panicked and mispronounced the brand terribly. The table went silent. Someone snickered. Adaobi's face burned with embarrassment, but she forced a smile and pretended not to care. Later that afternoon, Adaobi sat across from T-Money at a fancy restaurant. He had suggested they grab lunch to celebrate their viral moment. She agreed, hoping he might even pay. The meal was expensive, oysters and lobster, things she had only seen in movies. When the bill came, T-Money looked at her and said casually, let's split it. Adaobi's heart sank. She pulled out her card and handed it to the waiter, praying silently. The waiter returned moments later with an apologetic smile. Ma, your card was declined. The entire restaurant seemed to pause. T-Money laughed awkwardly and paid, but his eyes had changed. He saw through her now. By evening, he had blocked her on all platforms. Worse, someone had recorded the moment, and by midnight, the video was trending online with the caption, Clout Couple, Broke Edition. Adaobi watched it 17 times, each view breaking her a little more. That night, lying on her mattress in the dark, Adaobi's phone buzzed. It was a voice note from her mother. My daughter, I'm praying for you. I know your consulting job is stressful, but God will make a way. Just stay focused and don't forget to eat well. I love you. Her mother's voice was filled with so much pride and hope that Adaobi started crying. She had lied to her mother months ago, telling her she worked as a consultant in a big firm. Her mother believed her. Everyone back home believed her. Unable to sleep, Adaobi got up, set up her ring light, and recorded a fake video of herself in an office setting. She used a plain wall, wore a blazer, and spoke professionally into the camera as if she was in a meeting. Then she sent it to her mother with the caption, Busy day at work, Mummy. I love you too. She lay back down and stared at the ceiling, feeling hollow. The fame she wanted so badly was starting to taste like poison. The bills kept coming, but the money did not. Adaobi's solution was simple and devastating. More loans. She downloaded another loan app. Then, another. Each one promised fast cash with easy repayment. She told herself it was temporary, just until her big break came. Sandra called her that evening. Ada, I heard you're taking more loans. Please stop. This is not soft life. This is pressure in packaging. Adaobi was defensive. Sandra, I'm building something. You wouldn't understand. Sandra's voice softened. I understand that you're sinking, Ada. And I'm scared for you. But Adaobi had already made up her mind. She was chasing 200,000 followers now. That was the magic number, she believed. Once she hit it, brands would come. Money would flow. Everything would make sense. She hung up the phone and stared at her follower count, 137,000. She was so close. Too close to stop now. Then the cracks widened. A beauty brand Adaobi had been pretending to work with posted a statement on Instagram. We have no affiliation with @Adaobi Lux Life. Please disregard any claims suggesting otherwise. The post went viral faster than her fake couple photos ever did. Her comment section exploded. So you've been lying this whole time? Soft life is now soap life. She's a scammer. Adaobi tried to defend herself, posting a long caption about misunderstandings and miscommunication, but nobody believed her. Her followers started unfollowing in waves. She sat on her bed refreshing her profile every few seconds, watching the numbers drop like her heart into her stomach. Laddie knocked on her door gently. Ada, maybe it's time to take a break from all this. She did not answer. She just kept staring at her phone, paralyzed by shame and disbelief. Sandra showed up unannounced the next evening. She did not come to comfort. She came to confront. Ada, I've had enough, she said, standing in the middle of the small living room. Adaobi looked up, exhausted. Sandra, not now. But Sandra was not backing down. Yes, now. You're lying to everyone, including yourself. You're pushing away people who actually care about you, all for strangers online who don't even know your real name. The argument escalated quickly. Voices rose. Words were thrown like stones. You're living for people who don't even know you. Sandra shouted. Adaobi shouted back. At least I'm trying. At least I'm not settling for ordinary. The words hung in the air like smoke. Sandra grabbed her bag and walked toward the door. When you're ready to be real, call me. She left, and the silence that followed was unbearable. What Adaobi did not know was that Laddie had accidentally caught the whole argument on his phone during a live stream. By morning, it was everywhere. Adaobi woke up to a nightmare. Her phone was flooded with notifications, but not the good kind. Memes of her face were everywhere. People were laughing, dissecting her life, calling her fake, desperate, delusional. Then came the message that made her blood freeze. It was from one of the loan apps. Dear Adaobi, due to non-payment, we have contacted everyone in your phone book. Please settle your debt immediately to avoid further embarrassment. Her hands trembled as she opened her contact list. Her mother, her cousins, old classmates, her boss. Everyone had been messaged. Her phone started ringing. It was her mother. Adaobi could not answer. She turned off her phone and sat in the dark, shaking. The walls felt like they were closing in. Fame had not lifted her up. It had buried her alive. That evening, the power went out. Nipa, as usual, had struck without warning. But this time, Adaobi had no money for fuel. Her generator sat outside like a silent witness to her collapse. The apartment, once filled with ring lights and camera flashes, was now completely dark. She sat on the floor, her back against the wall, surrounded by silence and shadows. For the first time in months, there was no pretending. No filters. No audience. Just her and the weight of everything she had been running from. She thought about her mother's voice note. She thought about Sandra's words. She thought about the girl she used to be before Instagram, before followers, before the lie became her life. And in that darkness, something inside her finally broke open. Not with drama or noise, but quietly, like a door creaking open after years of being locked. The next morning, Adaobi left the house for the first time in days. She booked a cheap Bolt ride to nowhere in particular. The driver looked at her through the rearview mirror and smiled. Auntie Soft Life, how market? He had recognized her. Adaobi's stomach tightened. She did not respond. She just looked out the window at the busy Lagos streets, at people hustling, laughing, living real lives without cameras. The driver did not push further. He turned up the radio softly, and they drove in silence. The city lights reflected on her tired face, and for a moment, she looked like a ghost of herself. The girl in the photos was gone. What remained was someone she barely recognized. The ride ended, and she paid quietly. As she stepped out, the driver called after her gently. "Auntie, go better." "No worry." She nodded, unable to speak, and walked away into the crowded evening. Days later, Adaobi went to a hair salon to braid her hair. It was a small, local salon, nothing like the fancy places she used to post about. She sat quietly, hoping no one would notice her. But halfway through her appointment, she heard whispering. Two girls in the corner were staring at her. One of them leaned over and said loudly enough for her to hear, "Isn't that the fake ambassador girl?" Adaobi froze. The salon went quiet. Everyone was looking at her now. And then, something inside her collapsed completely. She started crying. Not delicate tears, but loud, ugly, uncontrollable sobs. The kind of crying that comes from months of holding everything in. The hairdresser stopped braiding, unsure of what to do. One of the girls looked uncomfortable and whispered, "I didn't mean it like that." But it was too late. Adaobi stood up, half her hair braided, and walked out of the salon. Someone recorded it. By that night, it was online with the caption, "Fame didn't break her. Pretending did." Adaobi could not take it anymore. She packed a small bag, just the essentials, and boarded a bus heading east. She was going back to ABA, back to her mother's house, back to the place she had been so desperate to escape. She did not post about it. She did not tell anyone except Laddie, who simply nodded and said, "Safe travels, Ada." The journey was long and quiet. She stared out the window, watching Lagos fade into the distance. When she finally arrived, her mother opened the door, took one look at her daughter's face, and pulled her into a tight hug. No questions. No judgment. Just love. That night, her mother made her pepper soup and sat beside her while she ate. "You don't have to explain anything now," her mother said softly. "Just rest." And for the first time in months, Adaobi felt safe. Adaobi turned off her phone. Not just for a few hours, but for an entire day. Then 2 days. Then a week. At first, her fingers itched to check notifications, to see what people were saying, to defend herself. But slowly, the urge faded. She started waking up to the sound of roosters instead of Instagram alerts. She helped her mother in the kitchen. She sat on the veranda and watched the neighborhood children play. She bought a small journal from the corner shop and started writing. Not captions. Not performative thoughts. Just honest reflections. "I don't know who I am anymore," she wrote on the first page. "But I want to find out." The simplicity of her days felt strange at first, almost boring. But gradually, something shifted. The noise in her mind grew quieter. The pressure in her chest eased. She started sleeping through the night again. One afternoon, a letter arrived. It was from Sandra, handwritten on plain paper. Adaobi's hands trembled as she opened it. The letter was short but heavy with emotion. "Ada, I don't know if you'll read this, but I needed to say it. You don't have to be famous. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be you. The real you. The one I met in university who laughed too loud and cared too much. That girl is still in there. I'm waiting for her to come back. I miss my friend." Adaobi read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down her face. This time, they were not tears of shame or regret. They were tears of gratitude. She folded the letter carefully and placed it in her journal. That evening, she sat down and wrote Sandra a reply. Not a text. Not a voice note. A real, handwritten letter. It began simply, "Sandra, I'm sorry. And I'm coming back. But this time, as myself." Slowly, an idea began forming in Adaobi's mind. She did not want to disappear from the internet entirely. But she did not want to perform anymore either. She opened her laptop and started a blog. She called it, "The Girl Behind the Filter." The first post was titled, "I Lied to You." In it, she confessed everything. The loans. The fake photos. The pressure. The breakdown. She wrote with raw honesty, No editing, no polish. She did not expect anyone to read it. But within days, the post started circulating. Not because it was scandalous, but because it was real. People who had been hurt by comparison found comfort in her words. Young girls who felt pressured to perform found relief in her honesty. Slowly, quietly, her blog began gaining traction. Not for clout, but for truth. And that felt like the first real thing she had built in years. One morning, Adaobi's phone rang. It was Laddie. She hesitated before answering. "Ada, you blew up again," he said, his voice warm. Her heart sank. "Laddie, please. I'm done with that life." He laughed. "No, Ada. Listen. You blew up for being real this time. Your blog. People are sharing it everywhere. They're saying it helped them." Adaobi sat down slowly, processing his words. "Are you serious?" Laddie's voice softened. "Yes. And I'm proud of you. This version of you, the honest one, she's the best one." They talked for an hour, laughing about old times, reflecting on how far she had fallen and how she was slowly climbing back up. Before they hung up, Laddie said, "Come back to Lagos when you're ready. But only if you're ready." Adaobi smiled. "I will. Soon." A few weeks later, Adaobi returned to Lagos. But this time, she moved differently. She went to the market one Saturday morning with no makeup, no wig, just her natural hair tied in a simple bun. She wore jeans and a faded t-shirt. As she picked out tomatoes, a young girl approached her nervously. "Excuse me, are you Adaobi?" Adaobi's chest tightened, expecting judgment. But the girl smiled. "Your blog helped me. I was drowning trying to look perfect online. But you made me realize it's okay to just be me. Thank you." Adaobi's eyes filled with tears. She hugged the girl tightly. "Thank you for telling me that," she whispered. There were no cameras. No spectators. Just a quiet, genuine moment of human connection. And it meant more to her than any viral post ever had. On her way home, Adaobi smiled to herself. This, she thought, is what real impact feels like. Sandra finally agreed to meet. They sat at a small tea shop in Lekki, the kind of place with mismatched chairs and handwritten menus. At first, the conversation was awkward, careful. But soon, they were laughing again, talking about everything and nothing. Adaobi apologized fully, not with excuses, but with honesty. "I was lost, Sandra. And I hurt you because of it. I'm so sorry." Sandra reached across the table and held her hand. "I forgive you, Ada. I just want my friend back." They talked for hours, reminiscing about university days, sharing stories of their struggles, and dreaming carefully about the future. No filters. No performance. Just two friends reconnecting. As they left the tea shop, Sandra said, "You look different now. Lighter." Adaobi smiled. "I feel different. I feel free." A local women's group invited Adaobi to speak at a community event. She was nervous but agreed. The audience was small, maybe 30 women, most of them young, struggling, trying to find their way. Adaobi stood in front of them with no script, no rehearsed lines. She just spoke from her heart. She told them about the pressure, the loans, the lies, and the breakdown. She told them about the cost of chasing fame. Her voice cracked when she said, "I thought being seen would make me matter. But I was wrong. You don't need to trend to matter. You just need to be true." The room was silent, and then one woman started clapping. Then, another. Soon, the entire room was applauding. After the event, several women hugged her, thanked her, and shared their own stories. Later that night, a video of her speech went viral. But this time, Adaobi did not check the comments obsessively. She simply smiled and went to bed peacefully. Adaobi moved into a smaller apartment in ABA, closer to her mother. It was simple, clean, and filled with light. She placed a small plant by the window and a bookshelf in the corner. She continued writing her blog, sharing honest reflections on life, mental health, and self-worth. Her follower count did not matter anymore. What mattered was that her words were helping people heal. One evening, she sat at her small desk and typed a new post titled, "The Price I Paid to Be Seen." In it, she reflected on everything she had lost and everything she had gained. She ended the post with, "Peace is better than packaging. Authenticity is better than applause. And your life is not a brand. It's a gift." She posted it, closed her laptop, and looked around her quiet apartment. For the first time in years, she felt full. Not with validation, but with peace. Weeks later, Adaobi sat in a small cafe, sipping tea and watching the world outside. Her phone buzzed on the table. Another notification. Another message. Another opportunity. She glanced at it, smiled softly, and flipped the phone over, screen down. She was no longer controlled by it. She took another sip of her tea and watched a bird land on the windowsill. Her blog had grown, her voice had found purpose, and her life had become her own again. Not perfect. Not polished. But real. And that was enough. The voiceover in her mind whispered gently, "You don't need to trend to matter. You just need to be true." She smiled, finished her tea, and walked out into the warm afternoon. The girl who wanted to be famous overnight had finally become something better. She had become free.